Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another live stream of Shadowverse. Today is March 31st, Wednesday, which puts me in a weird position always every year because we're a couple days, actually in Japan it's already April Fool's Day, and we are close enough to April 1st where any bit of news could be a April Fool's Day joke. Um, Including this very different update for Shadowverse. So apparently, assuming this isn't an April Fool's Day joke, which maybe it is, maybe it isn't, we've got cross promotion now with Shadowverse, and here we have the three ladies, the three older ladies of Shadowverse that are mostly focused on. Although I guess there's still a couple other ladies because the healer's not listed here. And then here we have an ad for Kaguya-sama Love is War. So this is an anime, it's a will they won't they romance anime where like both this guy and this girl are secretly in love with each other, but they're so obsessed with winning and getting the upper hand that instead of just confessing their love and going out and on dates and that would be the end of the story, they are constantly trying to trick the other person into admitting their feelings without revealing their feelings themselves. Uh, so, thus the love is war part. And then they are like members of one of the major committees of the school, and this is their friend slash assistant who is constantly trying to manipulate it so that they would both just get on with it and admit their love. So it's a comedy romance anime. Now, how do you turn that into a crossover with a anime inspired collectible card game? I have no idea. No idea at all. When you compare and contrast some ideas here, like clearly the maid ninja assassin character is in love with the queen, but the queen has only been shown in the main story, and that was many chapters ago, like 3 or 4 years ago, that we even saw her. Um, the magic user is in love with her dead boyfriend and was trying for a very long time to bring him back to life, and eventually, I think, abandoned that. And while the fairy archer lady maybe had some friendly, non sexual, like sister like love for the other elf girl that got turned into the bad guy when her body got taken over, there really was no indication, at least in the English version, that she ever had any kind of romantic interest at all. And you would think from this positioning that this would be a case where this character and this character were secretly in love with each other, and this character was going to act like her and try and get them to confess that. But you really couldn't be further from the truth on that because this character and this character kind of barely interacted in Shadowverse's storyline. In fact, that's pretty much true for all the characters, is that they've all barely interacted. Also, the most recent story left on a cliffhanger with this character being supposedly killed. Uh, so while you may have some visual reflection here, the reflection thematically doesn't make any sense at all. Um, it would make more sense, frankly, to replace this character with the dragon character because the dragon character is male, first of all, and the dragon character does kind of have a relationship with this character um, because he was the leader of her boyfriend's group. And then you would have to potentially have a character act as somebody trying to get those two together, and there really isn't anything like that, but I would say Orisa the fairy girl would make a lot more sense being down here, because if she would be the one that would believe in love. Of course, that is talking a lot about just the start menu. We don't have a ton of news today, and I don't really have. Oops, should have seen that one coming. I don't have a lot to say in the accountability section. MakeCode is a website where you can program in MicroPython using blocks in kind of the Scratch drag and drop, almost Lego-like style of programming. It's not good. It in at least 2 or 3 times has led to unpredictable programming. For instance, a very default little block that says play animation does not really explain itself well, in that if you play an animation and then you tell it to play another animation, it doesn't stop the old animation or play 2 animations on top of each other. No, it queues it up and actually plays both animations in a row, which, if you're dealing with timing, totally screws up timing. And so, yeah, there's definitely some issues that I've run into trying to use it, but I've been programming what I'm calling a bathroom buddy group of functions for a Circuit Playground Express, and I would imagine I should probably be fairly conservative and say 60% done. One of the things you can't simulate, well, you can simulate a lot of a Circuit Playground Express doing this in browser programming, so you don't even have to own the Circuit Playground Express to start. One of the things you can't really test is presence detection. This is weird that this whole left side is just black. That seems like a glitch. It would have made so much more sense for this show, this whole image to be stretched. So I am going to have to actually upload the code. I was in the middle of a game off screen and maintenance happened. And yeah, we can purchase bundles. So yeah, that's what I've been mostly doing lately. Yesterday, I did play a couple of tables of pinball. In particular, I played a table called Class of 1812, which is basically a new take on the Universal monsters. Dracula as female vampires, male vampires, mummies, werewolves, things like that. But on this table they rap, and what it really comes off as, this was a table that was trying to attract itself to the black community in 1991, while all the characters still, because of probably some racism within companies in general, or within even arcade owners, and it's definitely true that people of color were often not welcome / run out of arcades, whereas white kids were often allowed to roam in arcades and not spend $1, not spend even a quarter for hours and hours and hours. So, all of the characters are drawn white, but then they're rapping in 1991. It definitely feels like they were trying to attract them. And sadly, this is part of a bigger issue as we get into the 90s tables in particular, is that I've become kind of a observer of the social justice elements, and I don't want to call myself a SJW, but yeah, it seems like every table has something that needs to be pointed out, whether it's female characters just drawn to titillate and not talking or playing a role in the narrative, which in Class of 1812, which I think is a pretty great table, but it just doesn't have that name recognition. Let's open some packs. Let's see. We can also buy new leaders. So, of the 3 leaders, if you were allowed to buy one for free, I would pick her. But yeah, I don't think we're ever gonna get down to a point where any of these are not just available for premium currency instead of gold. And having more leaders really doesn't change much. We don't seem to get too many sleeves. Alright, so buy packs. Limited darkness. Here. This would cost 1,000 crystals to buy that. Or we can buy 15 packs here with tickets and just get started. And then we could potentially buy 50 packs of Fortune's Hands to get another boost there. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see what these new cards are. New cards theoretically mean deck rebuilds. We'll see how far we can get down that route, since today probably will be a slightly slower day too. There is still a very consistent issue with pinball tables, even in 1991. A lot of them don't have kickbacks. A lot of them don't have ball savers. Almost none of them have ball savers by 1991. A lot of them don't have center pegs. A lot of them have really easy angles in which coming down a ramp will shoot the ball directly down the center or directly into an out lane. Alright, so if I look at it this way, I can't. I'm gonna have to zoom in and zoom out. So I think what I want to mostly do here is just open the packs and look at the art. And then we'll look at the cards once we have opened all the packs in the card collection. I think that's probably the best way to go about this. Even opening 15 packs, a lot of times these expansions are simplistic enough, so there aren't that many different cards anyways. I guess what we're mostly looking for is, are we going to have going down the kid-friendly route for card art, or are we going to swing in the other direction? Because here you have Jeweled Axe Devil, and this definitely is one of those butt and boob shots, poses, but then they've put a big old skirt on there and decent amount of clothing, so but then here you have belly button and under cleavage sort of being depicted too. And I just don't think a Japanese company would ever be able to censor itself well enough to hit the point where this would be a card game that an average Western parent would be like, yeah, your kids can play this if they care. This is interesting. You kind of have like a Hitlerish, Nazi-ish look here. Particularly the dog looks like he's got a Hitler mustache on that. Or maybe I'm just seeing that. So yeah, mostly I spent yesterday programming. I still have some major issues trying to program. My monitors are too far away, and the online drag and drop has big problems where you can't. First of all, you can't change the colors of the different colored bricks, so some of the green ones are just hard to see. Like, there's not a deep enough thick black outline around the text. I'm often having to zoom in to be able to read things, but then I need to zoom out because there's enough lines of code that you need to do that. The whole system is pretty bad because you can make like functions to try to break up the code and make it easier to read, but in micro or circuit Python, I believe that's an interpreted language, which means it's not getting decompiled like a compiler normally would do, and taking a function and unrolling it and putting it just directly into the code for optimization levels. There's no optimization. So while most people wouldn't know this, even early people into programming, if you make a function and you pass variables over to a function, then you're taking up a lot more RAM in an embedded device that doesn't have a lot of RAM in the first place. So you have to think on a way more conservative level, as it were, with what you have and what you don't have. For instance, I was programming some of the pixel colors, since the pixels can be any colors. And then logically, for easy readability, you would want to put all of the colors into one big array, and then you have only one variable you have to deal with going forward. But the way the system works, it's fairly difficult to get a value from a file and then put that value in an array directly. So then you have to make a variable to put it in the variable into a different variable, so you're doubling the amount of RAM usage, and that's just bad code. You also can't, in the drag and drop, manipulate variables names. So I can't make a loop that says variable user1 gets this value, and then the second time the loop happens, variable user2 gets this value. Instead, I have to have the exact same code for user 1 as user 2, as user 3, as user 4, which that's a hassle. I also am programming Happy Birthday and London Bridges to play in it, and that requires me remembering or figuring out how to read sheet music, and yeah, I'm not particularly an expert on that. Like, figuring out whether I'm looking at a half note, a quarter note, or a whole note. So before we do anything else, let's go to the cards and see where we are. Create cards and then filter by Velsar, which I guess is the newest expansion. So we have Retracing the Past, give 2 allies less wards, randomly restore 1 or 2 defense to the leader. Let's see, we probably shouldn't worry about cards we don't have, generally. You have 20 or more cards in your deck, destroy an enemy follower that costs 2 play points or less, then banish 2 random cards from your deck. Otherwise, destroy an enemy that costs 4 play points or less. That might be useful. There definitely is a deck out there where you're just trying to get rid of the cards in your deck. But I have yet to attempt a strategy around that. Rush, enhance, draw a card. When Resonance becomes active, gain Bane. Let's see, we've already got 1 copy of an animated version of these cards. It's kind of ridiculous to try and use any dust to craft the minimal cards. I think at this point, I think you are just gonna get enough free packs to get the minimal cards. So I probably should change my strategy See, there's another showing a lot of upper thigh and back and boob poses. Yeah, Shadowverse in general is just not going to really be able to censor itself, I think, because it's obviously that they're hiring many different artists who are doing somewhat similar art styles, but not quite the same art styles. And when you have that many artists that are just kind of like freelancing, implementing strict censorship guidelines is beyond what I think they can enforce, or even care to enforce. I wonder if there's a different artist that makes the animated overlays for the cards, or if it's all the same artist. Yeah, and I'm just looking at the art. Like, I honestly just can't care enough about this card game. Even when there's a brand new expansion, and this is where I should be the most hyped, I just don't care enough about the card game to bother to try and read the cards while also streaming. And I won't really ever play enough off screen to figure out the cards either. I'll figure them out eventually as cards get played against me, and that's about it. And see, I don't know if my boredom with Shadowverse has 100% to do with Shadowverse, or if it has to do with the fact that I've been playing a collectible card game consistently now for about 5 years straight. And between Hearthstone and Magic the Gathering and Shadowverse, I've just lost patience. Okay, so decent amount of cards are missing still. And that glitch still happens. I think we are probably at the halfway point. Alright, so let's go to the shop and do this. And come down here. And what's the maximum we can get? It's 10 packs. Let's go ahead and skip. And just save ourselves some time. So when we do this, we're looking for new things. And the odds of getting new things are fairly low. So that's probably the least interesting way you could do this, is just open 10 packs, click skip, and there we got one new legendary, which I don't know if you can have 2 legendaries or not. We have 1 animated gold. And let's see. Go and skip that. 2 legendaries. And then another 10. Nothing new there. And see, we still are like 70 packs away. So let's do 10 here on these cards. And we'll open these. And then we'll spend the last 5 packs and just get down to 0 with the new cards. It does kind of feel like our experiments to get to the tradables on that one expansion will accomplish that pretty much the second that expansion stops being playable. And that is going to be really frustrating. It also might be a case that I literally have just every single card in that expansion by the time I do get to tradables, and the journey of putting 400 cards in there wasn't really worth it. Let alone trying to catch up with the next expansion and trying to get to tradables at that point. That's highly unlikely to happen. Yeah, I would just have to play this game a lot more, and not just play Shadowverse. Like Hearthstone and Magic the Gathering, you really just have to play to get rewards and make progress. Shadowverse, you really have to win. There we go. Nah, let's just skip. Yeah, we are 63 packs short. I have one card here that is a temporary card, which doesn't really mean anything. I have a couple cards here that I'm missing. I'm missing one of. I have some cards here that I only have one of. I have some cards here that I have 3 of. These say bonus already attained. Interesting. So, yeah. There is enough of a list here where tradables still seem like they're going to make sense. But, yeah, by the time I get to this, Worlds Uprooted will probably have completely left play. And so going back and trying to craft each of those makes very little sense. Okay. So then if we go here and select this one only, go into crafting mode, where are we now? We've got 3 on this page that we're missing. We've got a couple new cards. I guess this is an animated version of a card we don't even have. Which that's part of the problem, is that these pages will just expand and expand as you start to get animated versions of the cards. Which is a whole different level of trickery. Because it makes you think you've gotten closer to a full collection than you really have if you care about the animated version of cards. But you would never really be able to get an animated version of every card without pouring in hundreds and if not millions of dollars into this game. Which honestly, when you have such terrible draw rates, which let's be honest, this game does have pretty terrible draw rates. It does just encourage people to potentially hack the game and cheat. And I can't really blame somebody if they were going to do that. So if we look for the extras, this is going to take us from 21,000 and 30 to 32,070. Okay. And see, I feel like what we should do is, can we sort by, I mean, you could do this and sort by older cards and start just crafting older cards in general, but it's probably not worth it. So let's see, is there a way to sort this more as far as how many you have? Well, we could go here to unlimited format, I suppose, and any rarity, and do this, because I think that's really where this is going to happen, is that if I'm going to start crafting cards, I probably should just craft, regardless of rarity, everything that we can see in this case. These might be new cards, these might be old cards, but it will just be easier in the long run to just have one. Of course, I didn't even start on the right page there. And spending 200 is probably a mistake. What's interesting about that card we just looked at, this Gift of Bloodkin, is the fact that this is a different skin and a different vampire from the big burly male vampire character, which they probably should have killed him off in the story and replaced him with a different vampire character. That would make a lot more sense. But I also would like to see them write a story where he like sires a vampire-like child and tries to raise it, tries to become good for this child, and then nobly sacrifices himself. I would hate for him just to die. We have Into the Looking Glass, a Alice in Wonderland reference, or actually an Into the Looking Glass reference, which is the sequel. And see, I'm not even looking at the cost, so if it's 800 vials, fine. If it's 1600 vials, fine. Let's just craft. Well, actually, let's not craft the most expensive ones. Let's go with just bronze, silver, and gold, because that's asking too much. Even 800 gold is asking too much. But we can get perhaps a jump start on the new expansion by doing this, or at least we can make progress as far as owning a lot of cards and having the art so you can look at it, because I don't want to look at the cards in black and white, which I imagine this is just a black and white filter and nobody actually animated them individually different. Yeah. I also don't have too much to say at the moment, do I? Because of that. Now, I will say, if you weren't using MakeCode, you could just use Arduino, like C-like code, to do a lot more with the Circuit Playground Express, and I definitely will have to make a few projects or ideas using that, because there are definitely some limitations. Most notably, there's a lack of a switch command, which switches where you get input a variable, and for every case that the variable matches, it will go down the line. So if you switch input 1 and the variable is the letter A, you would type in case A and then it would do something. But if the variable actually was B, then you would type in case B. And it does have a secondary command called break that you can actually use break anywhere, but it's almost always used in conjunction with a switch command to stop it going down the line. If you don't use break, then case A would also run case B if case B is below the next line below case A. There is also a continue command that is lesser used that is in conjunction with break. But by not having a switch command, you didn't have to make a whole bunch of either if commands, which requires more processing because you're checking every single scenario in a less optimized fashion, or you're using else if commands, which is slightly better than the if commands, but it's still very busy. And that is kind of the problem with MakeCode in general, is that for incredibly simplistic code, it might make sense, but as soon as you start to get to 200 lines of code or more, the whole thing just breaks down. It takes more space, it's more complicated, and it's just not the real world experience. You're never going to have drag and drop blocks while you're programming the hardcore source code of a video game. You might have drag and drop blocks a little bit in Unity and Unreal if you're just a animator or a low-level assistant that isn't the hardcore programmer. But you really are never going to be able to dumb down code to anything that is Lego-like. So, but the reason why I'm using MakeCode in part is because you can upload projects, and there's considerably few projects, and that is kind of the problem with the Circuit Playground Express. You're paying honestly about $26 plus some heavy shipping unless you buy in major bulk from Adafruit to get them, and they are decent no solder solutions for schools where you can overcharge a little bit for school products, but they really aren't decent products as far as microcontrollers that you would want to hand to a kid and that they would be able to even play with it for over summer. There's not enough projects. There's not 101 type things to do with it, which is what really needs to exist. And even if there was 101 type things to do with it, they'd be pretty boring. Like the Circuit Playground Express has a speaker that can make noises but not probably talk to you. It doesn't have any like text to speech. It has a microphone, but that's really just a noise level indicator. It has infrared transmitter and receiver, which you're probably never going to use. I'm going to try and get it to use it for a proximity detector, which it claims it can do, although I'm not sure you can actually do it in MakeCode. It has a temperature sensor, an accelerometer. The accelerometer probably also has a magnet detector or compass. It may not have a compass. It doesn't have any Wi-Fi. It doesn't have any Bluetooth, so it's fairly limited without those features, which may be good, may be bad. It has 2 buttons, 1 switch, and then 8 capacitive buttons that you can attach things to, but also you can just touch to trigger. But yeah, it has too many things built in, where arguably Adafruit's newer system of stimma devices makes a lot more sense, where you can have a microcontroller that is cheaper, and then if you want to add a microphone, you plug in a secondary board through a Stemma JST connector, and if your project doesn't need a microphone, then you don't spend that extra expense. That's more of the Lego mentality, where I'd say the Circuit Playground Express is almost like a finished Lego set that you can't break apart, or you don't want to break apart. Yeah, I'm only going to get up to the 2s here, but whatever. We're using all the vials and crafting one of every card so that we have at least a way to go back and look at these cards. Of course, and this effort is probably pretty dumb, because at some point I'm just going to get bored of Shadowverse and then leave, and then there will be so many cards missing. Unless I just won the lottery. That's pretty much the only thing I could think, is if I won the lottery and I was a billionaire, at that point I could just pour money into games like this and just try and max them out. But that would be fairly boring too. Like, having all the cards in this card game, A, may not make me any better of a player, and B, it would eliminate pretty much all the goals. You don't level up the cards or anything after you collect them, and leveling up your characters really doesn't accomplish anything. You'd think that there would be some kind of rewards for just unlocking or crafting a certain number of cards, but that doesn't seem to exist either. That's why I always feel like these collectible card games would be very nicely suited to hand you very old sets. At least the basic and classic set of cards should just be handed to all new players, and old players should get extra copies that they can then turn into dust. I guess maybe Hearthstone is trying something like that, but for Hearthstone it's too little too late. Yeah, we can see that there's quite a lot of cards still yet to be crafted. As we go down this list, and this is page 65 of 156. I really only got up to the 2s. And plenty of these cards I only have one of, which I'm fine of. I have like one of the non-animated version of something. And if I was going to like turn something into this, I have 12 Sears globes. If I wanted an animated version of something, I could do it 12 times over the course of probably a year and a half playing Shadowverse. This also kind of highlights the difference between playing a single player Yu-Gi-Oh game, where they often have a path in which you'll get all the cards without paying any money, and a free to play on player versus player collectible card game where there is no expected path other than spending potentially thousands of dollars to get cards. Yeah, it has also dawned on me goofing off and programming something else just highlights that, like, I still have a bookshelf to build. I haven't worked on my server, and so that thing is just turned off. Both of the parts of the server now have just been turned off, and they need to be on so that the capacitors don't dry out more than anything. I've got Lego sets to build. I've got Lego to organize. I have a lot of things that I have not gotten around to doing, and I procrastinate on. But I was thinking yesterday that You know, life isn't about finishing everything. Like, yeah, this is something I think people realize when they get older, and maybe I'm just realizing it now, is that sometimes you just want to have something that you can do later. You don't want to be incredibly bored. Um, yeah, there's certainly the cliche of old people in retirement homes having nothing they can do, nothing they want to do. They've just accomplished everything in life, and now they're sitting in front of a TV watching Wheel of Fortune, waiting to die. Um, whereas I would be much more happy if I were to make it to the point where I was in an old ages home, that I would have Lego sets still to work on, or projects still to work on. Something to keep me active if I can do it. Unfortunately, I may not be able to do it. I could easily see my arthritis or my eyesight going, and then not being able to really work on computers or programming. I don't know what kind of life I could even really have if I couldn't work on computers, because that is 90% of what I do every day. Alright, well, I'm not going to do the solo things, but we'll see if we can skip the solos elements. So, I think I skipped through this part, and I don't think I did the story here. And so now we've got a Dragon Craft character. This was a Forest Craft character. Interesting, these definitely look different as far as characters look. So, disable voice, and then skip, so I don't spoil myself on anything. It does kind of feel like maybe what this new story is either going to be the B story, which we've seen so often before, or this might be an attempt at just straight up rebooting the characters and replacing everybody that were the main heroes in the story, which I don't think you can do that in one fell swoop. Alright, well, then that brings me up to like 5. Alright, so I'd have to play off screen to get further on that, and I'll do that later. But yeah, this Fate's Trigger conclusion did leave everything up in the air as far as the death of Orisa, and I assume Entropy's Abyss, and then Entropy's Abyss conclusion will change what we saw there and bring Orisa back to life, or really kill her off permanently. We don't have any like solo things, just make sure for that. And then Runecraft or Dragoncraft. So let's see, Dex, rotation, we have a Dragoncraft here. Let's edit this deck and see what it was before, and then see what it will be now. Alright. I guess what this probably would be is just all Dragoncraft cards, which probably, in that thought, is not really what you need. Ever. You probably want something more focused. And just, yeah. So if I filter here with class Dragoncraft, newest expansion, we've got 3 pages of cards. So is this a good card? Draw a card, give 2 allied followers the last wards, restore 1 defense, or 2 defense. Can be played only when there's 2 targetable allies in the playfield. So this is not a 1 turn card, first turn card. In fact, it's a 3rd turn card. That's probably not too bad. This doesn't sound bad at all. So we'll do that. The follower has at least 3 defense. So many. Does this increase defense? Yes, it does. Interesting. So we got strategy there. We can do that. Put one of those. One, 2. 1, 2, 3. Play point. Do one of those. Do that. So we've got like a defense increase. Okay. So 48 cards now, trying to focus on just increasing defense. So get rid of those. Get rid of that. Get rid of 2 of those. Get rid of that. That never really played well. That might work greatly. This is not a discard deck though. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. It's not really an evolved deck either. Okay. So now what I'm gonna do is just see if we can increase defense by finding some other cards that would really synergize and increase defense. Cover 1. There might be an argument for having one of these in the field and then like just having one evoke, another invocation card. if there's anything there. Let's see. Okay. Clear that. And then advanced trait. No. I guess keyword effect. Invocation. That's what we're looking for. Well, I guess I literally don't have 2 invocation cards that would work. Alright, well then let's get rid of this. And then let's rename this. Change the name here. Let's see. I don't know how I even got the caps lock on, but apparently it is on now. And while we're here, we might as well see if we want to use any of these new art pieces, because we've got a couple here that we probably have never used. So we'll take that, and then we'll have to see if we want anything different here with the characters. No, we'll stick with Rowan on this.
We should head out.
There we go. And then let's start playing. Here we go. And see, that's why you don't want to stream deck rebuilds and pack openings, because that took literally an hour for me to ramble about doing side projects, accomplishing very little for my YouTube channel. Also didn't schedule any videos. Yeah, that's a problem too. And maybe the side project really is just me subconsciously avoiding scheduling, which I kind of had forgotten about yesterday. But yeah, I totally need to schedule videos.
The eternal procession beckons.
Yep. And there's kind of nothing I can do, frankly, short of just reducing the number of series that air on my channel on a daily basis, or down to 1, or reducing the frequency in which things air on my channel. Which I guess I could do that. I could potentially, instead of going Monday through Friday, go into a Tuesday and Thursday, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday event or style of releasing things, but that would be confusing. If I can't explain it right easily vocally at the moment, then that's a bad release schedule. And there would be issues, to say the least, as far as trying to release something every Monday. I also need to I forgot what I was even talking about there. Well, unless Nintendo is setting themselves up for a very stupid April Fool's Day joke, today is the last day you can buy the Mario Trilogy, Mario 3D All-Stars game of Super Mario 64, Mario Sunshine, and Mario Galaxy. I'm not sure if you really should care, frankly. It would be maybe a little bit harder to find a ROM and emulate Mario Galaxy But Sunshine and 64 probably is not that hard. In fact, all the games will probably emulate perfectly fine on PC, and I think all three of those games, in my book, are really still abandonware, and were still abandonware the second that the uh, how do I put this? I feel like those games were abandonware when they were originally when Mario 3D All Stars came out. I don't think that they magically left my definition of abandonware just because Nintendo decided to sell it. And the second they stopped selling it, I think it's still abandonware. I don't think companies get to, in modern time and mentality, create something, create a story, create songs, create narratives and visuals that enter society, and then decide that they're not going to sell it and put it in the vault. Arguably, this is the same argument I would say as far as the Disney Vault too. It's like the second, in my personal opinion, my own moralistic decision here is the second a movie goes into the Disney Vault, it's public domain at that point. It's abandonware. If they're not going to sell it to you, you are totally justified at that point to go find a pirate copy. And even when Mario 3D All Stars is on sale, I think you was still fairly justified to find a pirate copy because they didn't even do a good job with it. Like the only thing that could turn this around, and it would barely turn it around, is if they said April Fools, actually we're going to keep on selling it, or they said we're actually selling a better version of it that actually emulates the games better. Even if they would go and say all these games are just free to all Switch users, that would be a little bit controversial. Because then the people who were the early adopters would be upset. Let's see. So yeah, I highly would discourage anybody from buying the Mario games just to have them on the Switch. Of course, if you're a parent, the arguments, particularly of abandonware, intellectual property, or the general concept that the ideas of music and stories and things that were mental were never really considered property that could be sold in old biblical times. The whole "thou shalt not steal" was a argument around depriving your neighbor of something physical, whereas the entire concept of the Old Testament and the parables and every story and the like Jesus ever spoke in the New Testament, none of that was considered stealing. To repeat those stories, repeat that idea, it'd be stealing the steel scrolls where it was written, because you would be depriving someone else of those scrolls. It would not be stealing one bit to copy the scrolls. They literally had monks copying scrolls left and right, all over the place. It's not like anybody was saying, "Oh, that's wrong," but the concept of "thou shalt not steal" biblically has been perverted to this idea where people can own everything. Corporations can own everything, and to deprive everybody else is insane. That corporations could own water rights, for instance, and deprive other people of water, which is a different argument, certainly. Even when copyright did make a sense, it never really made sense. But that is a more complicated, nuanced argument when people want simplistic rules that they can say they're following, even if they secretly aren't following them. And so I could see you probably don't want to let your kids play pirated games on the Switch, because that might encourage them to get in trouble with somebody else, or cause conflict amongst their friends or other parents. See.
Magic is a sound and it won't be long now. There's more than one way to think.
I might actually win here.
Thus the world begins.
Alright, well, we need to go through the video game news, and I really don't have time for a rant. I need to change my plugin, because the problem here in particular is that when I click on a duplicate tab, it brings the tab to the closest point when it really shouldn't. Here we're looking at a game called First Hero Epic of Gilgamesh, which there is a old story called the Epic of Gilgamesh, but I am not familiar with it, so I don't know what it happens. This does remind me that I watched a speedrun of Conan Exiles, which, yeah, maybe in single player mode there might be some idea there, but honestly, if I was going to play Conan Exiles, I feel like I would probably be better just playing more Fallout games instead, with more side quests. Although watching a speedrun, I may have missed a ton of side quests. But yeah, this looks not visually polished enough. It's $8.99 early access full audio. I'm gonna put it on the fall list though, because it's early access. This is the, like, usually I don't let early access be a saving grace for any game, but you do see an attempt here at the health bar. You do see here some graphics that could be polished, lighting and such. There's oddly large button prompts there. Okay. 4 damage to an enemy follower. Do this. And then this.
Think
This.
before you act.
This. This.
Flow on, dear wind.
I probably lost there. Here we have Fruit Sudoku, which playing Sudoku with fruit is not better than playing it with numbers, it's just more confusing. $1.89. One of the pinball tables I haven't mentioned is called Cactus Jack, which is basically a country western bar themed table with the dancing cactuses that are sound reactive that would have been largely in fad during the time that that table was released, 1991, and that clearly is the only explanation for Cactus Jack as a table existing. It is a pretty awful table where you have fruit levels increased, where you're throwing fruit at this terrible country bands of cactus people who sing polka instead of country music when you get a multi-ball, which, yeah, the whole idea doesn't make sense to me, and honestly I just don't think there would have been a large demand or desire to have like, I just don't think there'd be a large demand or desire to have something that was so focused around Should have given this one a boost.
Fresh manna melons and potion fruit.
Yeah, I failed.
Say goodbye.
Hunger is sharper freshness guaranteed. Fruit flies.
See, if you were gonna make a table specifically for Western theme, I'd like an old Western theme table. That would work, particularly if you have like a shootout going on or a train robbery. There's a lot of concepts there, but just a country Western bar doesn't mean much to me. Like, I really had to struggle as far as, should there be a line dancing mini game? Should there be country music actually playing on the table? Probably. Should there be more of a focus on maybe playing banjo or playing a saw or playing a cow horn and just adding more around the concept of the bands? That might work very well. Should there be a bucking bronco toy, that like a mechanical bull type toy on the table? Sure, those are all concepts, and those are all things that are just not in Cactus Jack at all. Every gimmick it has, of which there's very little, is pretty bad. I will say Class of 1812 has kind of a great idea in that it has a sinkhole almost directly up the center lane in the middle of the table. So anytime you shoot the ball with like half energy even up the center lane, instead of what normally happens is it just rolls directly back and down the center drain and you lose the ball, it instead catches the ball in that sinkhole and then shoots it back with a very consistent amount of pressure, which makes the ball always land in a somewhat safe area. Where you can continue play, which is great. There's a center lane sinkhole on top of kickbacks, center pegs, and ball savers would be amazing. Which honestly, if I was going to build a table, I probably would build a pinball table that makes it incredibly, incredibly difficult to lose. And I would try to make it so people just play a ball for 10-20 minutes on average.
Another takes its place.
I was also thinking about how you might try to revive the idea of pinball, and that there are a couple ideas that you could do. Because now in 2021, you could spend $10,000 to $20,000 to have in your factory 3D printers that would print any kind of 3D modeled toys that you would add to a table. This would be great for rapid development if you're going to develop tables that were to be played, but it also works very nicely if you were to try to do a quarterly, probably not monthly, like loot crate type subscription for fans of a pinball table, is that you could send them, hey, here's a new toy that you can put in your existing table you've already bought from us, and that changes the game, it changes the looks, it reskins the table to a different theme. Particularly when you start to think about like the second year, you could reskin a table that plays exactly the same with just a different theme and try and bring some different life for it. But on top of that, if you were to make a table that had just a monitor under it to show the art, which honestly you don't even really need a monitor, you could just print out and roll up table art, and then you were to ship a acrylic top playfield or glass playfield with pre-drilled holes, then if you can ship that without that breaking, and this is the big if there, you could potentially have
What is not there?
I can't really do anything there, can I? Well, you potentially would have something there where, like, you could have just a see-through acrylic with pre-drilled holes, and sometimes you would screw a ramp into the holes, sometimes you might screw a like drop-down target, things like that. If all those elements are interchangeable and the only thing that needs to change, instead of all the wood on the side of a pinball cabinet, all the wood on the bottom, all the back glass, all the flippers and things like that, you could have this almost Lego like set of components, and then once every quarter you might get some new custom components or toys. But yeah, and the acrylic would let you put the components and toys in different ways. It probably wouldn't be too hard to make 5 or 6 acrylics to start with, and like you might have something there. It's still dangerous shipping, but it's way better shipping than what you normally would have, which normally you would be paying to ship a 300-pound device instead of shipping a like 5-pound device every quarter.
That's too bad. Be gone.
So there might be an idea there, and each of the acrylics would probably be able to fit just inside the pinball cabinet, so they're not going to take up a lot of extra room. The only real thing is it's got to be one solid piece of acrylic or glass, or you've got to figure out some way in which you can glue or connect different sections together without there being a bump that the pinball would bump into. And yeah, I don't know if there is some kind of UV specific
Time to say goodbye.
glue you could set together, or just like precise lines so that the bump would not be seen or felt. You might be able to break it into vertical lines and hide the connecting points. But if you hide the connecting points, then that means there'd have to be something consistently there, always. Actually, that wouldn't be too hard, though, because the lower part of a playfield of almost any pinball table is going to just be where the flippers are, where the in lanes and out lanes are. So that part could be solid, and then you get rid of a significant portion of the length of the playfield at that. So there is room for progress.
That twig won't do a thing. Fruit flies.
Oh, I don't think the fence is working here. And I feel like I'm kind of rambling. What I'm saying kind of makes sense, but it's hard to explain, certainly. But yeah. You probably would need something that was 3 or 4 feet long and 3 feet wide, but very, very flat, shipped in some kind of like painting style, very careful shipping container, every quarter to the people. If they were acrylics and they were broken in the mail, then it would be easy enough to send new ones. It would also be easy to come up with several different ways in which the acrylics work, and then the acrylics could also be flipped over and reversed. So there's an idea there. The seam would still be a problem. 3 damage to all enemies. Can I put something else on the field? If I play that? No. 3 damage to 2 random enemies. Do we want to do this?
Red burns, but blue is hot.
Well, on to the next project.
It won't be long now.
Yeah, I'm gonna lose here.
Guess what's hot? Hope you like it hot.
Anyways, Fruit Sudoku is $1.89. Yeah, I'm rambling. Let's go through here quickly.
Howl cyclones, devour the land. You're a solid fighter.
Here we have a game we may have already talked about. I may have opened a couple things. Yeah, we already talked about this one. Unfortunately, it doesn't support English. This might be a case, once again, where building a deck around a theme is not as smart as just building a deck. Here we have a game called Transcender Starship, which looks like a space shooting game for 59 cents, third-party EULA. Here we have something called Bed Survival,
This one's
which
for my family.
I don't know.
Roll call, and
Oh, I guess it is kind of like a joke puzzle game where you're just trying to live your entire life in your bed for $5.99, English, Japanese, and Korean. I'll put this on the following list. This does kind of feel like it is something that could be interesting. I just need to burn through all this. Here we have something called Biphase, which looks like it's probably a platformer game with color mechanics. It's free, so I guess the price is right. Bunch of languages. Here we have Red Laser Z, which looks like a first-person shooter with pixely graphics for $9.99. English and Portuguese Brazil languages. Let's see. I don't even know why that is in the options. Here we have a game called From the Darkness, which looks like it is a psychological horror game. A lot of dark screenshots. Not seeing an enemy. I'm not seeing really any gameplay. And problem with all these horror games is that they now are so asset flippy and so good looking that it's almost impossible to tell. English and Russian for $6.29. I think I have to ignore that though. Okay, do I want to kill that or kill that or hit that? Well, apparently YouTube's ad-friendly guidelines might be changing, but I'm not paying much attention to it. So one of these screenshots is slightly weird, but I think we're still family friendly in my book. We have this game called Love Decision, which is clearly a visual novel. It doesn't seem like it's very well polished nor very well drawn, but yeah. And then you have here one of a girl eating a banana. This is $10.99, English and Polish. And see, I almost have that a knee-jerk reaction to go, oh, it's Polish, and let me give it some special consideration at that point. But there's no reason to do that at all. Alright, let's go ahead and just kill that.
together forever.
And hit that.
Let's seek what is not there.
Here we have a game called Frogger the Arcade, which just looks like Frogger. $8.99 English only. Here we have a game called Cutie Bear, which is obviously a 2D platformer. Doesn't look very interesting. It's 59 cents English only. Right. Okay. So is it important to kill this guy?
I'm out of cash.
Here we have a game called Tiny Adventure, which looks like an arcade style platformer for 59 cents English only. Nothing there. We have Ember Knight Solitaire, which is just yet another solitaire game for $6.79. That's way too expensive, really. This next game is tagged nudity and hentai. So let me just double check that this is just a low effort asset flip game. Yep. Here we have Pretty Girls Teach Beefy Guys, which is just obviously asset flip garbage. Early access for $1.39 English and Chinese. I mean, I fairly would believe that you can't just automate detecting these low effort games, but you could almost certainly detect visually just by looking at some of these games that they are of no quality.
Magic is a sound. Be gone. There's more than one way to think before you act.
We're together forever.
Next we have a game called Neon Dimension, which is just an Arkanoid clone from the looks of it, although it seems to have more of an emphasis of numbers on the bricks. So it seems like you have to hit these bricks quite often when you're seeing 10s and 20s. $6.99, bunch of languages. Nothing there of interest. Here we have a game called International Space Banana, which looks like it's a kind of joke physics game for $4.49, bunch of languages. That's a no to that also. Here we have War Tank Combat. This is once again a case where I could have curated a lot of these games. 79 cents English only. I wonder if we're going to see more games that are low effort because it's April Fool's Day, or if there's no connection there. Okay, well, we could do 4. This
White Dragon and I are one.
and this,
White Dragon and I are one.
and then I guess evolve
It
this.
won't be long now.
Come on, partner.
Like that. Let's see. Next we have a game called Accelerate, which looks to be driving cars with Easter eggs on top of it, which we don't have too many Easter themed. That guy just conceded and gave me a free victory. Great. Thank
I
you.
only did what I had to.
I will take a free victory. The battle pass is reset too, so we should look at the battle pass at the end of this stream. I don't think there are really any discard cards, so my discard deck might be just totally ruined by this new expansion. Accelerate is $5.99 English only. Yeah, I don't think there's any logic in making Easter themed or any, frankly, holiday themed games. They just don't really work. Here we have Narita Boy, which is a game that we've at least heard people talk about. So there might be some quality here. We can see it's mostly positive. So theoretically I could put it on the wish list, but I'm going to put it on the fall list. It's $24.99, bunch of languages. It is fairly expensive, particularly when you have a game here that looks like it could be a lot of other things than what it probably is. Here we have a game called Be Hero, which looks like it's a Stardew Valley type game. Early access, 1169, English, Portuguese, Brazil. 2 damage. Next we have a game here called Motor Assailant, which looks like it's an asset flip car racing game. $8.49, English, Russian. Let's see. Go ahead and do that.
Forever and evermore.
Here we have Shelter 3, which I feel like Shelter 3 came out way earlier than this, so why is... Maybe it just came out of early access. But Shelter 1 from 2013 is very positive. But something happened between Shelter 1 and Shelter 3. Shelter 2 is very positive. So it's weird that they dropped the ball on the third one in the series, but not super weird.
Is that a human?
So, is there anything I really need to do?
Biding your time is a tactic unto itself.
You are done for.
No, I don't think so. I think if I ever get around to playing Shelter 1, and then play Shelter 2, then I might decide to play Shelter 3 at that point, but honestly, more and more I'm trying to convince myself to not do things like that and only play the good versions of games in the series instead of feeling a need to play every version of a game in a series. Okay.
My dragon and I are one.
We evolve here.
Come on, partner.
And
Yeah.
are we killing this or this?
My armor has been pierced.
Next we have a game called Holy Chick, which seems to be a VR puzzle joke game around giant chickens, as far as I can tell. Early access, $2.99 for a VR game is particularly cheap. English full audio. I'll put this on the follow list, but I imagine it actually is going to be very little, very short. Right. Draw 2 cards. And then evolve.
It won't be long now.
And attack.
Oh, waffle cakes.
I probably need some cards that would heal the defense if we're going to build up defense. Here we have a game called Things That Bounce and Explode, which is seeming a cross between Arkanoid and Space Invaders, or Shoot 'em Up. Not a terrible thought. $2.99 English, Portuguese, Brazil, but also not a game that looks particularly interesting to me. And see, I don't know if this is 3 screenshots next to each other or if you are literally playing 3 screens at the same time. Yeah, I probably should make some tweaks to this deck. Or make tweaks to other decks. We have Evil Genius 2 being mostly positive, so I can go ahead and just put that on my wish list. This also makes an argument now. If I was to buy Evil Genius 1, do I really need to play it that much, or can I just spotlight it and jump directly into Evil Genius 2? I think you might be able to just jump into it. Now, this is a deluxe edition at $50.99, or the main game at $33.99, and it has third-party EULA and Denuvo. What is the publisher on here? Rebellion Software. English full audio, so this would be a game I would definitely want to see the price come down significantly before I would actually purchase it. And frankly, even asking people to like gift me games, I bet there's cheaper and equivalent quality games on my wish list than a $33 Evil Genius 2. Here we have a game called Ball Challenge, which seems to be a kind of frustration, not platformers per se, as much as a flinger of a ball, which maybe I guess that would be close to a hookshot swinger equivalent for $1.99 English only. Yeah, not something I would be interested in. I still have a whole wall of tabs, and I took an hour at the beginning. Here we have a game called Guns and Run, which is pixely, but might be interesting. I like the side art of the chibi art style characters. Fast-paced precision platformer, it says. I think the precision platformer is the thing that would convince me not to want to play this. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I really would want to do this. This is the kind of game where I would prefer to watch some other speedrunner play something like this. $12.74, Portuguese, full audio, and a bunch of other languages. I guess I'll put it on the follow list just to see how people like it, but that is just my own morbid curiosity more than anything else. Okay. Yeah, if I'm gonna play this deck, what I need is more defense, more ward, because there's some build up here. Here we have a game called Pineapple Island, which is clearly just a, well, I guess you're kind of playing Arkanoid here with random garbage for $1.19.
My raging flames have got your back.
Okay, hit
Twig
that.
won't do a thing.
Here we have a game called Sweets Memory, which is just memory with sweets for $1.19, English, Portuguese, Brazil. Man, we're getting to a dangerous point here where I'm gonna have to start complaining about Portuguese Brazil games being the main developer of low effort and low quality games, which, yeah, we have seen that happen. Here we have a game called Noah's Ark that looks completely different from other games called Noah's Ark. But I guess there have just been multiple Noah's Ark because this is Pico Interactive, who are known for publishing old games. And this clearly is just an emulator running an old game. $6.39. It's way too expensive, but for historical sake, I'll put it on the fall list. English, allegedly full audio. We pretty much know that's not the case. Okay. What can we do that won't kill us the worst? I imagine you play this. And then this.
Let's try throwing in a dragon's claw.
And I think that's where you leave it. Next we have a game called Apocalyptic World, which is obviously just an asset flip first person shooter for $1.19, $1.99. Yeah, we have Robin Race, which is just a infinite runner with bunnies. Bunnies don't look terrible, but why would you have a racing game with bunnies? It seems to be so centered around the idea of Easter. $7.49 is too expensive, and the third-party EULA. And then here we have another game called Burst Planet with what seems to also be a bunny. And it does seem just to be very asset flippy garbage. Early access, Chinese only, $17.99. Alright. If I can do this, then I can do that. And then do we have something we're specifically targeting?
Be gone.
Hunger is sharper than freshness
Hit that
guaranteed.
one. And then hit that one.
Impossible!
And then I can kind of win here. I can kind of win.
What potential does mankind
Like
have?
doing 11 damage. And he can't even kill this character without evolving. Here we have a game called Blind Shot, which seems to be kind of like a clicker concept. Yeah, it seems like it's just a left-right type game, like Stickman. $1.59. Yeah, you're just playing left, right, with different skins. And this might play fine. I just don't know if I would if I'd really want to play a game like this. But I'll put it on the fall list. I'll be generous. Of course, next time I do a fall list cleanup, I'm gonna regret that. Let's do this.
Hey, this wasteland's a fixer-upper.
And then do this.
My dragon and I are one.
And might as well just do that.
Freshness guaranteed.
It won't be long
Oops,
now.
I should have evolved that first.
Oh, this thing's more vicious than a knife. This is
I could have done one more
craftsmanship.
damage. Here we have something called Red, White, Yellow, which is clearly just a Tetris game. I don't know what these pictures in the bottom here really mean. Maybe it's complicating the game a little bit in that you're only collecting on certain turns, certain colors. $2.99 English and
You're a solid
Japanese.
fighter.
That just feels like that's too complicated of a concept. And felt like I was gonna win there, or I had a chance to win. Instead, I'm just getting wrecked. Alright, so can we edit the deck a little bit so that we can put 2 more of those in and see if we can take out some things that we maybe don't need. Well, at least that's an idea. To make a little bit of a change there. There definitely are other cards that could add to the attack and defensive characters. Here we have a game called Mesto is Together, which looks like a very blocky platformer of some sort. Almost like Thomas Was Alone.
This one's for my family.
This is the opposite of that. 79 cents, English only. That's exactly what this is Thomas Is Alone ripoff. Don't want that. Don't want that. Don't really want that. Here we have a game called Amazing Tower Defense, which is already mixed, so we really don't have to give it the time of day. $12.74 English, allegedly full audio. That is ridiculously expensive. Here we have something called OVNI Abduction, which might just be an asset flip first person shooter. Yeah, I don't think that there's anything here enough to be interested in. $12.74 English and Spanish full audio. Suppose I should mention that either Jim Sterling or whatever Jim Sterling's new name is, because he seems to be wearing a wig and either playing a female character, which, like, James Stanton has always been playing a character as Jim Sterling, so this might just be the evolution of it. And see, that's the problem with YouTubers in general, is that I know of now 2 YouTubers who very possibly are just playing characters that have transitioned to the other sex, or maybe they actually are transitioning and just doing a real slow job on it. Certainly also transitioning when you're a full-grown adult is not as effective as transitioning when you're younger, which causes a whole catch-22 issue for both sides. I think arguing different points there. Yeah, by the time your body is fully developed, your brain is also fully developed, and you can make the argument that anyone below the age of 26 should not be allowed to make any permanent life-changing decisions, but that would never fly in society. Or you're going to have to make the argument that people as young as 10 or 12 are going to have to be given the opportunity to make life-changing decisions. Regardless, none of that has anything to do with anything. Jim Sterling, which I'll just continue calling him that. Apologies if dead naming him, because I don't know the new name, was in yet another controversial DMCA takedown attempt of his channel. I did not really hear of this from first-hand sources because I have thankfully given up on completely given up on watching or listening to anything Jim Sterling makes, and he frankly or she frankly said it as much too in their video that I did watch, is that they're not really focused on making content anyways. They've moved on to wrestling. We have Nutchalota say, "Hey, hi Rydo, how do you feel about the new gacha?" Well, the new gacha in Shadowverse, so far I have not
Something?
been given a lot of focus on it. It looks like you got new cards. It doesn't look like the new cards
What a drag.
really
I like gossip.
do anything too new, at least so far in my playing against other people. But as I was opening 56 packs at the beginning of this stream, I literally just did not have the interest in reading what the cards did. So I totally just zoned out and looked at the art. So I will have to evaluate it. The only deck I've built so far is a defense up deck for Dragoncraft. That's why I keep playing the same deck over and over again. And it's going to need some work. It is different, and different is good in a collectible card game. Often, or almost always, different is good. But it did take out a lot of the old cards.
I must have faith.
I am in a weird position anyways though, because I wasn't really winning rotation games or unlimited games anyways. So a new deck potentially will let me do something different, and it did motivate me to change the cards and force me to change some of the cards, but that's as far as it really goes. Is that the until I actually put some effort into looking up some net decks and copying some other deck designs and actually care about Shadowverse enough to do that, I'm gonna still be in the same position where I'm just gonna use Shadowverse to lose a little bit and maybe get the daily quest done, maybe not. I don't feel like there's any new gacha elements like in this in Shadowverse, so I don't feel like the gacha in general speak actually changed any. It's kind of just the same thing. I'm much more like interested in the fact that they've got this anime tie-in skins just for art style reasons more than anything else. Let's see. I'm supposed to win 4 games with Runecraft or Dragoncraft, so if we were to come over here and see if we can find, these are Runecraft cards, so with the elimination of this, I lost 1 amulet card. So if I was to look here for an amulet card from the newest promo, there's literally no cards to be had. So then I just would have to decide, do I want to play this or this or this? But see, unlike Magic the Gathering, where you would get daily quests to play amulet cards, there is no reason to do it here. So I need an actual strategy instead of just a deck that is playing a gimmick. Now, if you're talking about like the new gacha in something else, I don't know what you're really talking about. There is new gacha in the mobile cell phone game Destiny Child I'm playing, because there's always new gacha there, and I'm doing really, really great there. To the point where I think in a year or two, will have everything maxed out. But that's still going great. And that's the only other gacha game I play. And Destiny Child always has that warning of it is a lewd anime game, so you do get a lot of waifu gacha characters, which makes them much more interesting. But even most gacha games that do have waifu anime girls in them are fairly boring looking and the art sucks. Destiny Child is the exception, not the rule.
Lawful evil. Chaotic good.
Moving on, we have Refissel 666. I don't know how you'd even pronounce that word. Refissel? Never heard of it. Looks like it's an asset flip first person shooter. It's early access for $12.59, English, allegedly full audio. It's playing Earth Sigil.
Drowned in light.
See, particularly if you're going to play an amulet deck, you need something that works with Earth Sigils very well. Here we have a game called The Last from Mars, which looks like a first-person shooter in VR. Early access for $7.99, English only. You're shooting aliens, and that's slightly different. But I feel like that's kind of the only thing different. I'll put this on the follow list though. But even if it did succeed, it's a VR game, so it would just stay on the follow list. So we can buff that up.
And twirls.
And then we can play that.
Go with the wind.
Then we can end the turn. Here we have a game called How to Win, which looks like it's probably just a low effort game, joke game, troll game. $7.64. English, allegedly full audio. Looks like it might be political jokes. Here we have a game called I Have Powers that looks like absolute garbage for $1.79, English only. Here we have a game called Mysterious World, which looks like a VR assembly of small demos and games for $4.99, English only, nothing there of interest. Can we do this?
Why, you've got the face of a chameleon.
Okay. So,
I'm just
hit
warming up.
that. And hit that. And then do we want to evolve or save the evolves? Save the evolves. Here we have Omuchi, which I feel like I saw a game very similar to this idea. Nope, this is a different game. Seems to be bits of Muchi, which I'm sure Westerners probably don't even know what Muchi is, fighting each other in 3D environments. Early access for $4.99, oddly English only, when clearly that should have Japanese and Chinese language support. Here we have a game called Sachibato President, It's Time for Battle, Maju Warriors, which feels like it is a spin-off game based on an anime. I don't recognize this anime at the first look. Certainly seeing characters like this I've seen before. Let's see. I guess I could get it slightly cheaper. English, Chinese, and Japanese, $17.99. I'll put this on the follow list, but being an anime tie-in to an anime I don't even recognize is gonna put it in a weird position. Alright. Hit
Nothing
that.
stops me once I got my speedy boots on.
And then do that. And then do that. And then do that.
Awful evil. Chaotic good.
And do we want to evolve? No, I guess we do.
I love how you slither. What a squishy body you have.
So we're trying to get rapid fires, I suppose. Here we have a game called The Killing Cloud, which looks like a very, very old game. But it doesn't, it's not something I recognize. I recognize Mirrorsoft as a developer, but that doesn't mean I need to cover every single old PC game that ever was made. $3.89. Suppose I could put it on the fall list
You were done for.
just to see if maybe there was some niche following of a game like that. Here we have a game called The Long Road, which just looks like a asset flip mobile game of rally car racing, for lack of a better term. Description. 59 cents, bunch of languages, nothing there. Okay. Rapid fire.
Never get a chance to speak.
And then do the full steed. And then hit this.
Go with the wind.
Okay. Do we want to evolve this?
This match is mine.
A second wind blows. Got to roam in style.
Hit that maybe,
Who will pardon my sins?
and then hit
Drowned in light.
that. Then play that. I guess play that.
Justice finds a way.
Hit that, I guess. I should have killed that. Yeah, they're gonna kill this, and then there goes my rapid fires. Here we have a game called Another Din, which looks like it's a cell phone JRPG game. Looks decently polished for something that looks like that's free to play. With in-app purchases. English, Chinese, Korean, and Japanese. English allegedly full audio, nothing else. There's 88 Metacritic, but then I don't know these other 3 review sites at all. Put this on the fall list, but I imagine I would ignore this. This definitely feels like it is just a rip-off JRPG mobile game, and I don't see a reason why I would bother to do that. Or do full damage.
Watch closely, apprentices.
And that concludes today's sermon.
Justice
There we
finds
go.
a way.
Here we have a game called Earbow. It's tagged as a Metroidvania game. It looks like it's more of a platformer than anything else. Action platformer with secrets.
For there, I will rise.
Yeah, I think the fact that it's an action platformer is the problem with it, with this game for me. I just don't think I want to play a Metroidvania that is so focused around platforming. I'll do a little bit of platforming, but not 100% platforming if I can avoid it. Here we have Hellgate VR, which feels like a VR version of Hellgate London, which I think was originally renamed Hellgate. A new VR game in the Hellgate series. Oh, so it's like a full rebuild. $27.99. Whole bunch of languages. Well, this is intriguing because A, this might set a new standard in first-person shooting games in VR, and it might set a standard or set a precedent that we might actually have a decent Hellgate game that comes about.
I will rise
Put your
again.
arm into it.
Stop! Justice finds a way!
So yeah, Hellgate VR might be something of interest. Although it may not be either, because if we compare it, here we have like the mixed review on the premium Hellgate collection and a mixed review on Hellgate London from 2018, which I thought they renamed that, but I guess they didn't. I don't believe either one of these is actually on the wish list because of their mixed reviews. The concept of Hellgate was more interesting than the implementation, but maybe they'll be able to fix that. Okay. If I do this, then I need to play something else. I don't know if I can play something else, but let's try this. Let's
Put your arm into it.
hit this,
The world cycles on.
hit this. And then rapid fire. And then do we want to play this?
A galaxy of gems tumbles and twirls.
Justice finds a way!
I shall give birth to a new world.
Here we have a game called Dark Around You, which looks like it's a 2D platformer. Looks like it might have an idea or concept going on. It's $3.39 English and Russian. I'm going to put this on the follow list. Now there is a danger here of just it being really, really dark actually around you and you wouldn't be able to actually play the game. So that is a consideration.
How did I lose?
Yeah, I know. I just got wrecked there. And that sucks. But I feel like this deck at least has more of an idea around it. Whereas the defense deck is pretty much just craziness. Here we have a game called Nanotale Typing Chronicles, which is rated very positively. And wow, if I can get one good looking typing game, that would be amazing.
Don't underestimate me.
This actually does look like this might be a decent typing game. And see, I'm surprised more bad game developers don't at the last minute convert their games into typing games. This is very positively, so I'm going to put this on the wish list. It was already on my fall list. Because it would be very, very easy to say, alright, well, this game plays terrible in reality, but we can trick people and sell it as a typing game, and then we can slow down the frame rate, and we can slow down the animations, and we can make up for the fact that we don't have a fight mechanic or any gameplay mechanic otherwise. Here we have a game called Magna Serena, which looks terrible. Looks like a student project for $4.89. English allegedly full audio. Here we have a game called Arcane Tower, which is just a tower defense game for $1.79. Here we have a game called Arrow Battle. I suppose it also is worth mentioning Then if I'm looking at every single game that came out on Steam, this is way too expensive, English and Russian. If I can look at every game that came out over the course of a weekend or a couple of days in less than 2 hours and 30 minutes, and evaluate which ones are the obvious low effort asset flips that shouldn't be allowed on Steam, in my opinion, then there totally would be a way to have a single employee looking at every game on Steam. Like 2 hours and 30 minutes. Let's assume that every Valve employee gets paid, let's say, a ridiculously high amount of $50 an hour equivalent. Yeah, let's just assume that the lowest employee at Valve gets paid $50 an hour. So you're talking $125 every couple of days to list potentially hundreds of thousands of games, each of which would have given you $100 minimum to be listed on the storefront anyways. And yeah, I'm sure some of the Steam Direct $100 is going to other expenses, but yeah, that does seem like a very doable expense to buy you some of the buy Valve and Steam some of the best advertising it can have by just not having terrible garbage on its shelves. Next we have a game on Steam here called Minimal Move, where you walk on these blocks and then you are shifting the world in a 3D environments to get from one point to the other. It's a cooperative puzzle game. 1019 says it can be played single player. I'm going to put this on the follow list, but I could also see this as kind of a nothing experience. It could be very simplistic puzzles and not that interesting of an experience anyways. Next we have World War II craft and then a bunch of Asian letters, which clearly this is just a RTS Chinese game. Full Chinese, full English it says. Early access for $11.69. Here we have a game called Insanium, which they're calling a tactical RPG. Even if this was an old game, though, it looks particularly old and particularly bad. $3.39 English only. I may get a disconnect here. Here we have a game called BioLogger, which looks like it's a difficult platformer with ugly graphics. Coming soon. Alright. So what we want to do here is increase the odds of dutiful steeds being used. Here we have a game called Conductor Creative Joy Engine, which looks like it's a VR assembly of just screensaver visualizers. Runs as standard and VR. It's free to play, English only, but then the donation pack is $14.99. This doesn't look like much, but being free, I can't really say I hate it. Audio visual experience. It does certainly feel like if you had a VR headset and you wanted to listen to music and you wanted to have some kind of visualization, something like that would be interesting. But oddly, no just like audio spectrum. No bars and lines to depict the audio, which would have been the default thought, the first thing you should have done. Here we have a game called Rumors from Elsewheres, which looks like it is actually a decently animated platformer adventure game. Does seem to have a split screen for multiplayer. $24.99. Yeah. English and Italian. That's not something we get a lot of. And it does kind of feel like some of this is taking place in a Prince of Persia style, Arabian Nights style environment. Here we have a game called Empire of Ember. which looks like it is a fantasy 3D build tower defense. Seems like it's got a couple different things going on. You build castles and you take on hordes of enemies. 1999, third-party account. English full audio. I'm not 100% sold on this idea. Some of this graphics looks a little weak, but I'll put it on the follow list. There might be something to it. Earth Essence in your hand. Let's see. Draw a card, I guess.
Rains from above.
And then do that. And put that on the field.
Everything all right
And then
here?
hit that.
Justice finds a way.
Wouldn't.
We may start to see some other articles finally. Here we have a game called Fruit Row, which obviously is just Tetris with fruit, which doesn't make any sense. 59 cents, English only. Apparently Tech Raptor was not loading. And is not loading. Interesting. So, I do know my network had a little bit of trouble either yesterday or the day before, but I was asleep during the time, so I didn't even really notice it. So we may not be able to talk about the 4 or 5 Tech Raptor articles, which is kind of great because kind of great because that means that Tech Raptor can't put any April Fool's Day articles out, which they're probably the most likely of the sites I follow to put out April Fool's Day articles. Nuchlo says, well, how about the collaboration between Shadowverse and Kaguya-sama Love is War? Well, these collaborations are just cross promotions as far as I can tell. It's a skin pack. I would love them a lot more if I could use gold to purchase the skins, but since I have to use premium crystals, which I'm not willing to put real world money into Shadowverse, that just pretty much means I'm not going to do anything with it. Now, maybe in a couple of weeks we'll get a single practice mode in which we play against the anime characters from Kaguya-sama, but at the moment the free to play players are not being included, so it's not something I can be involved in. In general, I kind of like the idea but of tying into an anime, but I can also see for Westerners them not really knowing anything about that anime, and it's hardly the biggest anime ever, which is another consideration certainly to think about. Because it certainly could have been a bigger crossover.
Eventually.
Well, I think I messed up there. Whatever. Let's just play, guy.
Everything all right here?
Justice finds a way.
Earth and assault. You wouldn't.
I don't know what kind of crossover you can really do with an anime and a collectible card game, unless you're just going to put out specific cards, and I'm not seeing any specific cards or skins for those cards. So if those are coming at some point, that might be interesting, but I doubt it. You could do a card back sleeve effectively, and that might be interesting. I haven't watched Kaguya-sama Love is War, but from what I hear, it's a pretty decent anime. Of course, the general idea and conceit behind it is either it's going to go on forever and get boring, or it's going to end after a certain season and you're going to have to read the manga to see if it actually wraps up, or it's going to give you a somewhat satisfactory ending. Like, the best way Kaguya-sama ends is that you make a movie of it and it's jumps to the future where the two main characters are getting married and they're still the same personalities in right up to the wedding, and then it implies that the people aren't going to change, but they are going to evolve and get married and be in love together while still trying to not really confess it. There is a older anime that I watched when I was younger that I liked quite a bit, comedic romance anime called His and Her Circumstances. And in the anime, what they do is about the least expected thing, particularly at that time, was they had the two protagonists actually like take their romantic relationship to the next step and have sex. And then the story kind of focuses away from those two characters and instead focuses on a romance of two other characters that had been background characters. So that's kind of how they ended, is that they took instead of marriage it was sex, and that ended His and Her Circumstances, and in the anime, and the manga went on and further. But yeah. Again, I don't know how that ties into a collectible card game, though. If there was going to be a card game around Kaguya-sama Love is War, it would have to almost be a custom card game concept in which the players were trying to trick the other players into admitting their love, which that would be an interesting conceit around the card game. Every conceit around almost every card game we've ever seen has been around the idea of defeating somebody in noble battle when there's not really a reason that has to always be the case. There, we might as well use this pack. There is a card game called Love Letter that might be around the concept of romance, but I don't really remember it enough to know. Collectible cards and collectible card games are generally built around the just feeling and general ideas around experiences. They're not typically built around detailed, complicated interactions. Moving on, we have a game here called Retro Shooty, which looks like a bunch of MS Paint type pixel things you're shooting at. It looks too busy by far. Early access, English, Spanish, Latin America, $3.49.
This one's for my family.
Here we have one called Craftsman Story, which looks like a bunch of asset flip things too. English not supported, 59 cents, Chinese only. We may get through all these listings on Steam, and not be able to look at any of the TechRaptor articles, and then I may just have to call it a day, which is fine. Nochilota says that's normal in the Shadowverse universe, I assume, about the collaboration. The last collaboration was called Code Geass. I was hyped so much about that, but I can't queue. Yeah, I remember the Code Geass collaboration too, and it's nice to remember or see Code Geass. Code Geass was kind of remade, re-released, I think, so it had some relevancy. But I would also say Code Geass, as being an older series, has more fandom enthusiasm around it for me than Kaguya, which I haven't even seen. I have seen Code Geass. I wouldn't mind if there was a better remake of Code Geass. But also that collaboration kind of did nothing. Leader skins. I think I got like one free Code Geass skin and then would have had to pay premium for him. And it creates a weird scenario, certainly, where they are half trying to focus on creating their own world and their own story with the Shadowverse anime and the kid-friendly Shadowverse versions of the game, and then they're half trying to have collaborations and just do anything and everything to keep the Japanese players happy and interested, which is probably the right move. Like, this is a game, certainly as the years go by, where you have to try and maintain your audience more than grow your audience. Let's see. I've got too many of these, so I should just play one of these.
Everything all right here?
Next we have a game on Steam called Turn On All the Lights, which looks like it is mostly a puzzle game with some thoughts towards electronics, although let's just look at one example here. You have a switch here that can either turn on one or the other, but then you have a point here where it seems like you could probably back power and electrocute yourself. So I don't know if there's safe switch guidelines happening here. But yeah, as a puzzle game with some electronic hints, that's not a terrible thought. 99 cents, English only. It might get boring very quickly if that's all you're doing. Here we have a game called Sausage Fiesta, which looks like a physics game where you're rolling around as a sausage. I kind of want this to be interesting enough for me to actually want to play it as like an I Am Bread sequel. It's $3.99. Says it's single player, but it seems to be focused around multiplayer. Third-party EULA, a bunch of languages, from the bundled with Nudist Beach Survival Simulator. I'll put this on the follow list, but I suspect it's going to be lacking in quality. Okay, we need to survive. Turn here.
The uncharted desert awaits. What do we have here?
Can't be attacked. Interesting. This character makes it so you can't lose play points. Interesting, because then you could play other cards that would literally say lose a play point, play orb. So it'd be interesting to see how, I guess if you apply this first,
Witness the fury of my curse.
then play some other cards, this could synergize pretty interestingly.
Way.
Wow.
Ice is snow chuck.
Okay.
What do we have here?
Next, we have a game called Iceland's South Coast, which feels more like a museum or just a collection of photos than an actual game. It's free to play, English only, so I guess if you want to see some photos,
It won't be long
that's
now.
doable. Here we have a game called Pixel Lot, which is tagged as a JRPG, but looks kind of cutesy. There might be an argument towards something like this. Put it on the fall list. $10.49 is a little expensive. See what it would take to change the spell deck while we're here. Just get rid of that, those, and that. Then if I look for spells from the new expansion, I have one. This gives you chaos, interesting. That. He had just barely enough new spell cards to replace the old spell cards. Of course, making changes from that perspective only makes sense if my decks were good to start with, and they weren't. So there's a great argument that other older cards would do better versus the newer cards. Here we have a game called GOTC Siege on the Light Order Citadel. This doesn't look visually interesting. It looks ugly with the repeated 3D shapes. $5.99, English full audio. Here we have a game called Necromancer Winter, which looks like a real-time strategy game for $1.39. Bunch of languages. I don't see anything interesting there. Alright, so just banish 2 cards and draw a card at the end of the turn. That's quite the random chance. Here we have a game called Junkyard Simulator, First Car Prologue 2, which I think I probably am interested in Junkyard Simulator. I'm not interested in a couple of prologues or demos to it. So I'll put the main game on the fall list. But yeah, I may be confusing Junkyard Simulator also with some other car simulation game. And this one actually seems like you are actually working in a junkyard doing someone's job instead of remodeling a car, which I think I'd be more interested in remodeling a car than running a junkyard. There is one game I've seen that actually did catch my attention where technically it's doing someone else's job. It's a beer brewing simulator. We'll talk about it when we see it. But in that case, I think there are more hobbyist beer brewers out there than legitimately employed beer brewers. So that's kind of an exception. Here we have a game called the Aircraft Carrier Survival Prologue, which seems to be kind of like a Fallout Shelter, Tiny Tower type game for free. And the actual game is coming out soon. English full audio. I'm not sure I'd really want to play this, but would give me an excuse to talk about Fallout Shelter without having to reinstall Fallout Shelter. But I think even at that point, Fallout Shelter is probably has more in it now than what that game would have. Yeah, we have a game called Destructo, which is probably an asset flip first-person shooter game, focusing on being able to shoot with a gun lots of things and blow up a lot of things. For $6.99 English only. I don't think there's enough of a concept there to make a game out of that. Next we have a game called Artillery Royale, which looks like it's a Worms clone. Yeah, I don't see a reason why I'd want to play a Worms clone. Early access, $9.99. English, allegedly full audio, online PvP. Which, that would be about the only thing you would want, is to make sure modern Worms games or old Worms games could be played online in some way.
Big trouble now.
Let's see, we have Kitchen Island VR, which just kind of seems to be a VR version of Cook Serve Delicious. Or $6.29 English full audio. Nothing there of interest. Here we have a game called Wildfire Swap, which looks like it's a puzzle game. It's an interesting theory as far as how to change the way a PEG game would work, because that's basically all these are PEG games. $8.99 is a little too expensive, English only, but I'll put it on the follow list. Let's see. I want to put that on the
So sweet, you'll get
guild.
cavities.
Yeah, TechRaptor is just not loading up.
Will not surrender.
Alright, well that's gonna be weird.
I'll get production up and running.
We have a game called Project Mirror. It's just a laser mirror game with incredibly blurry screenshots on top of blocky graphics.
Is that
$6.99.
cavity?
Way too expensive. Here we have something called Rim Cycles, which seems to be kind of an RPG in your dreams with turn-based tactics. $14.99 English only. I don't think there's anything interesting there. Go ahead and play this,
Human?
and then evolve this.
Mana, come forth.
I'm done sticking. I
Um,
told you to leave.
I might be feeling a little sick here, so I may not want to actually stream for too much longer. Let's see, here we have a game called Drive By, which looks like it's a driving game. Looks like it's from a cell phone port. $19.99 is too expensive. Third-party account and third-party EULA. English, allegedly full audio. As just a very high ask for what looks like at best an average game.
Destroy you all.
Let's see. Here we have a game called Dragon Sanity, which looks awful. Early access for $5.99 English only. Yeah, we've seen some real garbage today. just real garbage.
Oh, why did it have to be a clear day?
Here we have a game called Creatura, which looks like it's some kind of simulator, aquarium simulator game. 1999, English, German, Polish. Not sure that I really would want to play a game like this, but I'll put it on the fall list to think about it. Right. I could do 5 damage. Or 5 damage to all enemies. Do 1 damage to all enemies. I think I have to do this.
Colors, same great taste. You so useless.
I should have played this first.
Desert awaits.
Alright, well.
This match is mine.
I have no plans to address flavor at this time. Have a sip.
Destroy you all.
There we go. That wasn't too bad. Here we have a game called Light On Duo, which looks like it's a box pushing puzzle, electric puzzle circuit game. Which I have to be careful not just to become a sucker for anything that has electronics in it. This is $1.39 English only. I just don't think there's enough game here. And Duo seems to be a sequel to a game that came out in June 18th and seems to have no reviews. It's 37 positive of the exact same game. Yeah, I think we can skip both of those. Here we have a game called Loop Motive, which looks like a train survival game. Yeah, the train never stops, it just goes in circles. And so you have to slow it down and speed it up, I guess, to not crash into things. It's free, English and Portuguese. I guess if this game interests you, check it out, but honestly that seems like far too simplistic of a concept. 6 damage to that.
Lightning storm.
I'll destroy you all.
And then hit
I'll fry you to a
that.
crisp.
I'll destroy you all.
Then hit that.
Time to tidy things up.
And then lose. Here we have a game called Future Fortune, which seems to be some kind of clicker casual type game. Free to play with in-app purchases, English only. Nothing there interests me.
How did I lose?
Here we have a game called Outright, which looks to be a action platformer. I kind of like the shadow aspect and the way it's drawn, but it's just not quite there. And I think the shadow aspect is to hide the fact that there actually is just not a lot of animation here. Regardless, this would just be a frustration platformer like so many other frustration platformers that I don't want to play. $5.99 English Russian. Let's go back to this ridiculous defense deck. Here we have a game called Giant Blobs from Mars, which looks like it's a city simulation game for $1.79 English, allegedly full audio. Alright, and I just now got past all the TechRaptor articles so I can start talking about the Gamatsu articles. You know, going down for maintenance on April Fool's Day is not a terrible thought for websites. Guilty Gear Strive Early Access now includes all models and characters. So if that interests you, yay. I guess you get a bit of a hint as to what they would look like. Utawaro Mono Zan 2 has been announced for PS5 and PS4, due out July 22nd in Japan. This being a Japanese RPG by the looks of it. I definitely have heard of the Utawaro Mono series. I'm probably mispronouncing that. Nayuta no Kisekai for PS4 has a debut trailer. This is a remastered action RPG due out on June 24th in Japan. There was a decent amount of announcements today from Japanese companies. So yeah, this all looks very anime, but the intro may not actually look anything like the actual gameplay, and that is kind of the feeling I'm getting, is that the actual gameplay doesn't match the intros, which is fairly typical in JRPG land. A game called Stormfront with You, the Mutant War, Ubel Edition. Wow, that seems like there's definitely some misspellings here on purpose. Is coming to the PS4, Xbox One, and Switch on April 2nd. Physical editions are also available. And here you have a 3-boobed monster. I don't want to look at this trailer, but let's come over here and play while we're doing this too. So this is what the game actually looks like. It is just a top-down twin-stick shooter, but you know, it does kind of have that that feel to it that might actually catch my attention. I'm not a huge fan of top-down twin-stick shooters, but there is Smash TV, which is historically relevant, that I would cover, and that Stormfront definitely feels like it is inspired by Smash TV. A side-scrolling platformer called Stitchy and Tuki Trouble for Switch launches April 15. It's inspired by classic games like Donkey Kong, so I'd be interested to see how that's going to play if it's inspired by Donkey Kong. Do you mean Donkey Kong Country? Or do you... Yeah, this is much more Donkey Kong Country than Donkey Kong the arcade game. Which, in all fairness, Rare is never going to get the license to release Donkey Kong Country games because Microsoft owns Rare, so it's not a terrible idea for something like that for somebody to clone it effectively. Hit that. And do we want to hit this?
I see something?
Let's see. Melty Blood Type Lumnia has a teaser trailer. If you're interested in seeing the trailer for the fighting game, which this does look like it might be a decently animated fighting game. Although arguably maybe a little too zoomed in. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe the same thing when it does special moves. The Tokyo Game Show will be an online-only event again in 2021. Which, okay. I think that's probably not going to surprise a lot of people. If I put this on the field, I can't play it. However, if I put this on the field, and then put this on the field,
Is that a human?
and then evolve this.
Be gone. I'm done sticking. I told you to leave.
Hit that.
That was resplendent.
Hit that.
I guess I wasn't good enough.
And hit
Freshness
that.
guaranteed.
Let's see. Arcade Spirits, the new challengers, launches in early 2022 for PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. So PC demo is now available.
Did someone call for a genius?
Arcade Spirits seems to be a RPG visual novel. No, a visual novel with some arcade games going on. I was not expecting that at all. Yeah. So I don't even know if you play the little arcade games or if this is just straight up a visual novel. Seems like it's straight up a visual novel. Boy, is that deceptive looking advertising in counter to that. Okay, well, let's do this.
Zing! A crack-a-boom!
And I guess we hit that. I guess you hit that. And then the turn. Let's see, a game called Where the Hearts Leads. Physical edition has been announced. Due out day and date. I haven't heard of this game though.
I can move forward.
Seems like it's a visual novel with 600,000 word script, which that is a lot of words.
Good cup tears their brains.
Let's see.
Wasn't good enough.
Toho Hayabana, Antimony of Common Flowers for the PS4 Switch is coming to the West on April 22nd. This is a Toho fighting game by the looks of it. PS4 and Switch. More and more we're seeing games coming to the PS4 and not coming to the PS5. Which, with the shutting down of like a lot of the PS3 and Vita and PSP content, I wouldn't be surprised if, in just an act of spite alone, the Jim Ryan, the person in charge of Sony Interactive in California, starts to shut down features from the PlayStation 4 too. That'd be fairly crazy.
Is that a human?
It won't be long now.
I'm done sticking. I told you to leave.
That's a weird sound effect.
To be a clear day.
We're playing Shadowverse, so Shadowverse Champions Battle is coming to the West this summer, first launched in November of 2020 in Japan. I don't know if this is only going to be Switch. Yeah, it was launched for the Switch. This is the kid-friendly single-player kind of expansion based on the anime. I have not heard word one about the Shadowverse anime since it first was announced. I don't know if it got just slowed down due to the pandemic or if it just got canceled. The idea of turning it into a Yu-Gi-Oh style anime kind of makes sense, but it's still the exact same cards, and with maybe slight censorship on some cards, but it feels more like the censorship is coming to the cards everywhere globally. It would be an interesting idea to make a kid-friendly version of a card game with censored art and then have the adults-only version of it. But frankly, if you really wanted something like that in something like Hearthstone, there are mods out there that will put nudity on the cards in Hearthstone if that's really all you're interested in. Okay. Do this, and then do this,
My dragon and I are one.
and
These weapons are for hunting dragons.
Yeah,
I'm all out of juice.
I don't know if we are ever going to see a Champions Battle 2 or Season 2 of the anime for Shadowverse. I don't know if it's going to be managed to be successful, particularly now that I know there is a new season or a new series of Yu-Gi-Oh! Cartoons coming out, so a whole new generation of Yu-Gi-Oh! Probably would suck all the air out of the room as far as collectible card games for kids. That and Pokemon, of course. Here we have a game called A New Charge, launching in Q3 of 2021. I haven't seen this game before. I'm about to lose. So it looks like it is a kind of Zelda-esque swinger with some top-down twin-stick action. There might be something here of interest. The graphics look a little rough, though. Seems like you have to sometimes play some Arkanoid, too. Three to all enemies. If any other allied cards in play, destroy one, gain storm, and can I do a 1 mana anything? No. Can I do this then? Can I do this and something else? No.
My raging flames have got your back. That twig won't do a thing.
Yep. Lost. Xbox games for Xbox Live Gold free games were announced. Vikings, Truck Racing, Dark Void, and something Uprising. What is that? Hardcore Uprising. Vikings, Wolves of Midgard. So yeah, Xbox Live Gold still has some small reasons to exist to give you free games. Let's go through some of these other games. Here we have a game called Apollyon River Life. I didn't pronounce that correct, I'm sure. What kind of game is this? RPG using occult magic, featuring spirit summoning, dark forces, shrouded lore.
Oh yeah, I smell trouble.
Target sighted.
This looks like it's basically nothing. I kind of like the art, but that's it. $9.89. I want to put this on the full list just for the art, but I think the truth of the matter is actual gameplay mechanics or actual narrative is pretty much nothing. It seems like you use some kind of spirit board, which I guess is what this is, to try and summon different spirits based on shapes that randomly would appear. And it might be like a Pokemon gotta collect them all type concept. Next we have a game called Debato Delivery Battle, which doesn't look like anything of interest, for $4.24, bunch of languages. Here we have a game called Silver Frame, which looks like a very black and white space shooter. It feels like it's 3D, but it's hard to tell. Regardless, though, I don't like space shooters, and this definitely doesn't have enough details. Black and white doesn't work for this concept. $3.39, English and Chinese. If I'm gonna do anything, I need something on the field first. Here we have a game called Gordon Adventure, which looks like garbage for free to play. Check that out if you're interested. I doubt you will be. I mean, I can do this, and I can do this, but that's probably the worst way to to deal with that. Here we have a game called Submorse, which is a game about learning Morse code, theoretically. Free to play, English only, so I might be willing to play with this at some point. The problem with Morse code is the gate of just how long you hold down for a dash and how long you hold for a dot. There's just no standardization in it when there really should be. Like, somebody should have a metronome and it's like in 1/60th of a second you send this information, or which 1/60th of a second would be really, really fast. But like 1/4 note, 1/16th note, 1/64th note, if it was backed by that kind of idea of beats per minute in music, which really is probably the best equivalent. Can I do an Earthright yet? No. I can summon the dutiful steed. That's pretty much all I can do. See, here we have a game called D6 Dice Defenders, which looks like it is an FTL focusing around dice rolls. And doesn't look as interesting as FTL. $4.99. In all fairness, FTL and games like that were secretly focusing on dice rolls in the background anyways. So you've not changed the gameplay mechanic at all.
Why, you've got the face of a chameleon. Mana, come forth. I love how you slither about like a worm lizard.
Let's go ahead and just get rid of this.
Body you have.
The game Forspoken has an announcement trailer and an extended cut, which I feel like there is a game called Forspoken and a game called Forsaken, both being released about the same time. This is the one where it's the real world looking girl with based on her clothing, and then a dragon. Guess we'll cover an evolution point. I could evolve and kill, or I can wait and let him do damage, which I guess I can't. Wait.
This match is mine.
Make your move.
CD Projekt Red has acquired Digital Scape Studios. So now they have 3 development teams. CD Projekt Red also has basically given up on the standalone multiplayer for Cyberpunk 2077. We probably won't need to talk about that much more than that. Let's see.
You don't stand a chance.
Can we do anything else?
Anyone ever told you what a snake you are?
Nope. A 2D action platformer called Moon Raider is coming to PS4, Xbox One, and Switch on April 23rd. It doesn't look like it's probably that much. I'm just going to focus on news at this point since we're 3 hours in. A Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Complete Edition Next Gen Edition launches in the second half of 2021. So yeah, getting update, a free update for people who already own it on everything. Although I don't have the complete edition. I just have the regular version on good old games, and I would much prefer I'd much prefer to have it on Steam and play it some more. Let's see. Once again, April Fool's Day in Japan is already happening, but I have to assume that any Gematsu article or Gamasutra article is a legitimate article until I hear different. So, the Gravity Rush character designer Shinsuke Saito has left Sony Interactive Entertainment Japan, and apparently Kentaro Motomura also. He worked on a number of titles including Dark Cloud to Wild Arms, Soul Sacrifice, Bloodborne, and Everybody's Golf. Basically, everybody is leaving Sony Interactive of Japan, and we've been hearing articles about that for a while. But it's not just Sony Interactive Entertainment, because the Kojima Productions composer Ludwig Forsell has left to go freelance, which a composer being freelance makes a lot more sense than him working specifically for Kojima Productions. But yeah, I also am not super surprised that Kojima Productions making Death Stranding and only Death Stranding at the moment probably couldn't really run a business on that one game alone and whatever else they're working on. The Wicked King and the Noble Hero debut trailer and story episode and gameplay systems are detailed, which the Wicked King feels like another game that I thought was called like The Blind Prince. So maybe this is a sequel to that one? I don't think so. Maybe it's just two games with like kids cartoon animation, storybook animation styles. Yeah, this does look more like an RPG than the other game I was thinking about. Another Eden, the Cat Beyond Time and Space for PC is now available. Log in May 14th to claim bonuses. So it's a free-to-play RPG on Steam. Interesting. I think we looked at it. If you log in, you'll get another World Princess Fragment. Who knows what any of this is? It would be an interesting thought, certainly, if I wanted to play a free-to-play game. It would basically replace Shadowverse. If I was going to play like a free-to-play RPG game, gacha game. And I don't think it would work particularly well. If it was going to work, the game would have to have some fandom already, so I'd get into it late. Here we can see this is already mixed on the reviews. So, yeah, we'll say no to that and remove it from the following list already. There would have to be significant auto-battling and automatic things happening so I could talk about video game news while it's happening. Gematsu has the Binding of Isaac Repentance launch trailer, which every time there's a new Binding of Isaac version game, they say it's the last one, but I would not be surprised if this actually is the last one. Also wouldn't be surprised if they just keep on making new content for it until the day they die. Sam & Max, this time it's virtual, launches in June for Oculus Quest, 2021 for Steam VR, and Viveport Infinity, I've never even heard of that, in early 2022 for PlayStation VR. I assume that this is a new game for Sam & Max, and not just a port of old Sam & Max games. Yeah, this looks like new content. Although, being a VR game, it may be incredibly short amount of content. Maybe like 5 minutes of an not 5 minutes, but 2 to 5 hours of an experience. 505 Games has acquired the Ghost Runner IP. The Italian publisher adds new property to its portfolio. Which, okay. Interesting to not acquire the company, but just to acquire the IP. Cloudpunk DLC City of Ghosts has been announced. An expansion with a sequel's worth of content. Of course, I don't know what Cloudpunk even is. So I would need to know that game before whether I think DLC is worthy. I think I've seen this game where you're flying around and flying cars. But that seems to be about all you do in the game. Genshin Impact, talking free to play, is coming to the PS5 this spring. It's currently available for the PS4, PC, iOS, and Android. That is going to be really late to the party, though, by the time it comes out. And see, Genshin Impact is kind of an example of a game that I just don't think I could actually play in replacement of Shadowverse. It would just be too grindy, too boring. No Man's Sky Expeditions update is now available, so yeah, we may have hit a point where No Man's Sky at this point is a decent game, like nearly 5 to 10 years after its original release, it feels like. A beer brewing simulator, Brewmaster, has been announced for the PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC, due out in 2022. Interesting idea, certainly. It will be the implementation and the boringness of it, because what you're doing is effectively making a specialized cooking mini games, and you're gonna have to try and turn that into a full game, and it might be an idea here. I've often fantasized about owning a bar to make profit, not to drink in, so I could see living out that fantasy in video game form somewhat. Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne HD Remaster, the World's Rebirth trailer and story screenshots are now available. This clearly is a main character in the story, and he just looks so weird. This is one of those examples where making a weird looking anime character is so off-putting that it doesn't make sense to people not in the know like me. Excuse me, I'm wearing out my voice now. A game called Nimbus Infinity Play Prime trailer has an 8-minute gameplay video. This looks to me like it's a mech game. It seems like it is maybe not visually polished enough to be interesting. A lot of mech games are just flying around in arenas shooting at each other, and I don't know in 2021 how you spice that up more. See, that's the trailer video, so let's see if the gameplay... Yeah. That really does kind of feel like, for me, a game that I'd be interested in for only like 5 minutes. A pixel art Metrovania game called The Skylia Prophecy is coming to PS4, Xbox One, and Switch on April 23rd. Which, it was on Steam since November, so let's check that out. Yep, November 20th. It's coming to more platforms, but you can see it has no user reviews at all. Certainly that is the danger of games like this, is because you will potentially just never get enough of an audience, and there could be all kinds of hidden gems everywhere. It says it's for adults only. Explicit violence, nudity, and gore, as well as themes of sexuality, torture, and black magic. Interesting. So that might also be a weird game to see coming to consoles. Wouldn't be surprised if that game just quietly never gets released. Atelier Ryza 1 and 2 1 million shipments DLC costumes have been revealed, and so you have a White Lily of the Summer and then High Summer formal dresses, which it's basically the same dress, just in white lace versus black lace. And it's not just Sony and Kojima Productions. The Dead or Alive series director Yohei Shimbori has left Koei Tecmo. He's been in charge since Dead or Alive Paradise. Now, if this is the person I'm thinking of, one of the Dead or Alive creators, maybe not this guy, was getting increasingly upset with the fact that the Dead or Alive Extreme and beach volleyball games, the ones where it's just the characters with the boob jiggling and playing volleyball and stuff like that, he was getting increasingly upset on the pushback and censorship that was being required by Sony for making the Dead or Alive games, to the point where, like, he kind of didn't feel like there was anything new he wanted to add to the Dead or Alive series, the fighting game series. And there was a whole TikTok mentality where the beach volleyball games let them work on hair physics, and not just boob jiggle physics, but also muscle movement and animations and things that were sneakily getting added to the next fighting game to make humans look more human and act more human. I'm a little surprised they fighting game hasn't introduced a bruising or bleeding system, where you hit somebody particularly hard and they have like a bruise on their arm that starts swelling up over the course of it. Although most 2-minute fights, if you're hitting somebody and they're already bleeding or bruising, they are majorly injured at that point, and that probably would drastically raise the rating on any fighting game. So that's probably why they don't even bother to investigate in that. Moving on, the PlayStation Plus free games for April were announced. Oddworld Soulstorm, Days Gone, Zombie Army 4. 3 for the PlayStation Plus versus 4 for Xbox Live. Although maybe it's more quality over quantity. Fighting EX Layer Another Dash is now available for Japan and due out in April for the West. Which, this is another fighting game. I've heard of Fighting EX Layer, but I don't know where it racks up specifically in fighting games. It does seem like there's a assortment of enemies, at least 2 or 3 enemies. I don't know if the video here is being slowed down or if the game itself just runs extremely slow. Looking at this image, it looks like there would be at least 6 or 7 characters. R-Type Final 2 demo for the PS4 and Switch is now available in Japan. That's not really useful news. Romance visual novel Relief Dear You is coming to the Switch. It was launched on PC in October 2016. But it's not on Steam apparently. You know, for as many visual novels that have been released on the Switch in the West, there's incredibly nobody talking about any of them. Probably because most of them aren't that good, but also because Western game critics just absolutely blacklist any visual novel. They won't spend the time on them. They won't cover them. I'm sure there are some niche reviews out there that do, but generally speaking, nobody else does. Numbskull Games physical editions are going to be distributed by Limited Run Games in North America, which I guess includes Battle Axe. Which, I don't know what Battle Axe really is. Nicopera Catboy's Paradise has been announced for PS4, iOS, and Android. Normally the Nicopera games have been Cat Girls, so they're going the other direction. Of course, this might be an April Fool's Day joke. It's due out this summer for free. But yeah, also wouldn't be a terrible thought. Oddly, in Japan, if they are trying to make games to one target market of, say, straight men or gay women, then they tend not to make the opposite type products. The same companies tend not to. Here we have the April Fool's Day compilation for Gematsu, which seems to include some tweets, but I don't know if tweets are about all you can really expect and all you really want to see as far as April Fool's Day announcements and things. But even that is probably too much, particularly in the middle of all the struggle of 2020 and 2021. So yeah, I didn't recognize anything that was particularly interesting. I believe the Australian government has rated Power Rangers Battle for the Grid Super Edition, which implies that that's coming out. Let's see if we can get any of the Tech Raptor articles to launch here. Nope, Tech Raptor is still down. And Gamma Sutra is still down. Gamma Sutra, I guess, was also down. Okay. So, I guess what that does, since we're 3 hours and 22 minutes in here, is it leaves me with a lot of articles that I'm going to have to curate for Friday. And if it's something we talked about, well, we'll talk about it on Friday. I mean, if it's something we didn't talk about, we'll talk about it on Friday. And otherwise, I don't know if there's anything worth dealing with. Near Replicant has an April Fool's Day, a live stream from Escape from Hotel Izanami, full trailer from Gematsu. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Simulator is now available for the PS4, One, and the Switch. The Elder Scrolls Online Console Edition for PS5 and Xbox Series launches June 8th. And I'm just like scrolling through all of the Twitter listings. Let's see, job listings. Yeah, there hasn't even been a tweet from Gamma Sutra in the last 4 hours, so I bet they know that they're down. I wouldn't be surprised if this is part of a bigger partial internet outage and we keep running into things like that. Yeah, and there hasn't even been a tweet since the 30th as far as Tech Raptor. Tech Raptor, like, okay, 5 hours ago, they said a business review from Don't Nod Entertainment states that it's going to release 5 new self-published titles between 2022 and 2025, which I think that's probably episodic releases. Minecraft Snapshot has launched for Java Edition that brings goats along with some other changes to the cliffs and caves. bigger lobbies and an art style revamp and more transparency or future updates are coming to Among Us. Alan Wake 2 is rumored to be in development and it's going to be published by Epic Games. I could see it happening, but I could also see it not happening and being an April Fool's Day joke. Let's see. Yeah, I'm still just scrolling down the TechRaptor feed to see if there's anything newsworthy. Something called PUBG Lite is going to be shut down at the end of April. I don't know if that was something that was specifically for like India or a different region. I've never heard of it. There's some thought that you may be able to purchase costume DLC for Marvel Avengers, which is, I think, something they promised they wouldn't do. Sega has rescinded their DMCA for Yakuza Like a Dragon's page on SteamDB, which I honestly, if I was SteamDB, I would have just not responded to that at all and left the page up instead. But maybe you get better coverage if you take it down and cause a big fuss. But yeah, if I was straight up running my own YouTube equivalent channel website and all my videos were up and somebody sent DMCA claims, I would pretty much ignore them and say, sue me. Like, maybe I'd give them some runaround or something like that, but I'd probably just ignore it. And that's exactly what Giant Bomb said they did in their old days too, is that they would just straight up ignore DMCA claims and things like that. And that's what a lot of websites, I think, actually do. It's only YouTube that makes it super easy to let people take down videos. Alright, well, being in a weird position where apparently TechRaptor and Gematsu's websites are just not loading, yet the network itself is working fine with Shadowverse. It is weird. I don't think that's 100% my fault. It's probably the DNS crypt server's fault that I'm using. Clearly I need another victory, and ideally I'd want to get 2 more victories. One ranked victory would get me both of these, 2 more would get me that. Theoretically, since we are now back down to 50 gold, I'd want to build up the gold quite a bit. We also have the new battle pass, which, what do you get this time? You can spend real world money to get some card sleeves and a avatar icon. And what is this? I don't even know what this is supposed to represent, if that's a card pack ticket or what. Probably is a card pack ticket. Like, theoretically you'd want to get to level 80 over the course of the next now and June 29th. If you can't get to 80, then you probably want to get to 60 for these cards. But that's probably it. Yeah, I'm not super enthusiastic on playing Shadowverse enough to pull that off. Alright, well, that's going to be it for the stream. Thanks to Nutch Lotus for talking to me. again. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.